Hi, my name is Jonas, the Deputy Manager for the WRI Columbia Workshop Group on Agroforestry, and today I'm going to be detailing the work that my team has done over the past half semester. So a brief summary of what I'm going to talk about. We'll overview what WRI is and how our project relates to the work they do, the research question and methodology that we've chosen, some of the information we've collected and the challenges we faced in collecting it, our initial background research on the different countries we were assigned to look at, some of the cross-cutting issues we identified within each country context around agroforestry, and the next steps our team will face as we move into the next semester. So, active in 60-plus countries, WRI is a think tank that develops policy to aid national decision makers to better manage their natural capital as it relates to securing development opportunities for the present and maintaining sustainable societies into the future. As part of WRI's initiative to eliminate poverty while sustaining the natural environment, WRI has launched the Global Restoration Initiative with the goal of increasing tree coverage to ease pressure on global environmental limits. Above is a map detailing land areas WRI has identified as suitable for increased tree cover. We have been asked to contribute to WRI's landscape restoration framework by studying one specific restoration technique, agroforestry, within the three countries of India, Brazil, and Mexico. So why has WRI asked us to make agroforestry our research priority, as opposed to traditional reforestation? Building on an extensive knowledge base within indigenous communities who have practiced and refined agroforestry techniques for generations within their local ecological context, agroforestry is intermixing agricultural production with tree cover that itself can also have an agricultural component or potential timber function to provide economic livelihoods for rural landholders while maintaining and improving the ecological viability of the environment. To better facilitate WRI's mission of advising nations on how to utilize agroforestry techniques to achieve goals of sustainable development, our project is to review agroforestry within the three different country contexts of India, Brazil, and Mexico to see how specific policies chosen for us by the WRI country teams in areas such as rural credit financing or water management incentivize or disincentivize agroforestry and how lessons for these case studies can be applied more broadly. Subsequently, in order to understand what policies would act as political incentives or disincentives for agroforestry, we based our research framework around defining what the political economy around agroforestry is in each of the three countries. Analyzing each nation's efforts through a political economy framework, we can identify the power dynamics different actors in each nation have around agroforestry and the power dynamics involved in different policies. We can also identify the common practices that each country sees in agroforestry despite different national contexts. Aiding WRI's mission to develop best common practices for incentivizing agroforestry across a range of environments and helping break down information silos between different researchers across the globe. In order to describe the political dynamics of each country around agroforestry and identify commonalities, we have created and are revising a framework to put our findings from different national agroforestry context within to provide a unified structure to better highlight similarities within each country context. We are borrowing this framework from that which has been developed by the UN and the World Bank. Above are some of the common categorizations we are grouping policy incentives under within our framework to bridge national contexts and find similarities. However, to fill in our frameworks, we needed to dive down into the context of each country to understand what the situation was like for agroforestry and what sort of incentives are already in place. First, we collected the necessary background information regarding each country's economy and defining characteristics into a background document to guide our research. Then, following our methodology, we looked at what sources we could find on political actors involved in agroforestry in each country, the policy implemented by governments in our case studies, and what literature is available on the expected results of implemented agroforestry policies. What we found, however, is in our review that there was a lack of quantitative information on the results of agroforestry policies in some of the country contexts. Subsequently, we had to rely more on expert interviews and initial formulating documents behind various policies that determine the impact of different agroforestry policies on different actors within each country. Identifying policies in the fields of rural credit financing, farm product procurement, agricultural intensification, and protected areas. So firstly, our results from Brazil. Facing significant deforestation, agroforestry has been given significant attention as part of a wider effort to restore natural services and decouple development from environmental degradation. However, despite the scale of the problem, there is significant opportunity to address the negative impacts of agricultural intensification and provide pathways for economic opportunity in the various Brazilian biomes with agroforestry techniques. No large-scale agroforestry policy has yet been implemented in Brazil. However, extensive land use trials have been conducted demonstrating the viability of agroforestry techniques in different Brazilian biomes. Subsequently, the policies that our team has been asked to review within the Brazilian context are generally focused around incentivizing credit to fund agroforestry plans and programs on a larger scale. Mexico has a long history of communal land ownership, and due to government's rural reforms, is one of the most equitable systems of rural land ownership on the planet. It is this history and the strong culture of organization amongst peasant communities that has shaped the Mexican agroforestry landscape and its keystone program, Sembrado Vida. Launched by the Ministry of Welfare in 2019, Sembrado Vida is an equity building program for rural communities and falls within the policy framework of rural credit financing. However, instead of attempting to drive private sector investment into an agroforestry framework, Sembrado Vida sees the government finance rural landholders directly in order to accomplish national agroforestry objectives, such as preserving biodiversity and addressing rural poverty. Within the Indian southwestern states, our team has been asked to overview the impact of 4 national policies on. The species composition is primarily dry broadleaf forest, as opposed to the conifer forests of the southwestern Himalayan range in northern India or the wetter forests of eastern India. Additionally, in the case of Indian agroforestry, efforts are impacted by the different demographic context of the country, in that not only is the population much greater than either Brazil or Mexico, 4 times the percentage of the population is employed within agriculture in India compared to those other 2 countries. However, despite the expected pressure demographics would have on forest cover, as you would expect, forest cover has actually increased a few percentage points within India over the past several years. Perhaps because agroforestry methods have been given special prominence in the country, with the nation being the first to adopt an agroforestry solution countrywide. However, while it has implemented this national agroforestry program, it's been somewhat disjointed in its implementation, with different local governments failing to communicate properly on the program. So based on the background research we performed and the deeper dive of the policies we were asked to assess, we were able to identify some cross-cutting issues that impact agroforestry regardless of national context. You can see them listed behind me right here. In our research, we also noted a definite hierarchy regarding the adaptation of agroforestry methods in each country. India being the most advanced with a widely nationally implemented, though disjointed agroforestry plan, Mexico just beginning to implement its Sembrado Vida program, and Brazil lagging behind with clear demonstration of agroforestry viability, but no significant ramp up besides test cases. All 3 teams are now moving into the latter phase of the project, where having analyzed the details of the policies that promote or hinder agroforestry within each country and outline the most common incentives, they will document the agroforestry trends each country has in common and put that into the shared framework in our final reports, and transition to a greater focus on agroforestry disincentives, having focused more on policy incentives during the first half of the semester. And that will be all. Any questions?